Welcome to the Offshore Club's most riveting and revealing offshore lifestyle podcast, Open Mike, with Mike Cobb. For more than 20 years, Mike has worked and lived in Caribbean countries from north to south and the Atlantic to the Pacific. Nobody knows it better. And now, here is your offshore ambassador at large, Mike Cobb.
Hi, this is Carib Carter, and welcome back to Open Mike with Mike Cobb and our special guest in the final episode of our three-part series, The Iliad and Odyssey of Todd Greenwald. Todd, thank you for joining us, and thank you for how great the first two episodes were.
Thank you for having me, both of you.
Thank you. It's been fascinating to actually talk to somebody who is walking the talk, okay? Actually making the move. So we talked about, in the first episode, we talked about a lot about why he was leaving the U.S. Sorry, folks, but for a lot of darn good reasons, like valuing freedom. Next episode, we talked about what he's going to find when he gets to Gran Pacifica, where he's buying his beautiful, cozy home, as I call him. And today I want to talk a little bit about the cultural change, okay? The cultural change that Todd can expect, what he expects, and then Mike, who you lived in Nicaragua 14 years, right? Before, when Todd first got here earlier today, we were talking about that he said he's going to learn Spanish. And I said, I think that's probably a pretty good idea because based on my experience living for a year in Honduras, there is no press one for English, okay, in Central American countries. So Todd, what do you think is going to happen culturally? What do you expect to find in this culture that is very different?
Well, one of the first things that I've been made aware of is that it's a lot slower. So, and as driving down here today, I gave myself a lot of extra time because the U.S. we still operate 12 o'clock. You never know what traffic's going to be like. So was it going to take me 2 hours and 15 minutes or what? So I kind of was laughing to myself thinking that, well, Nicaragua, if I get there 2:15, it's probably not a big deal because people aren't nearly as wound up about time down there. So that alone appeals to me immediately, the idea of doing away with a schedule. Second, I think the food is very attractive to me. I don't know if we discussed it, but I want to take a cooking class, if they have one in Managua, to learn how to cook the cuisine, to learn about the culture, learn Spanish. So I think it's important to respect the customs and respect the traditions and whatever else the locals, to become part of the community, unlike what's happened in this country where sadly people move here and they want to then make this country like their country they left instead of trying to embrace customs, local ideas, traditions. Not that they should do away with their ones from their home country, but I don't think I'll be celebrating the 4th of July down there. I may recognize it in my mind, or but
you may. It's funny. Hey, by the way, during the break, we were talking off camera a little bit, and I want you to come back to that topic.
Sure.
I want to talk about what you just mentioned too, because I think and the 4th of July thing. But you were talking about what it means to you to be at this point in your life where you're selling 99% of your stuff, getting ready to move. That's a big cultural shift as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that is probably the biggest part, at least where I'm at today, because one, you have to come to the point in your life where if you're not coming back, because I don't anticipate, I won't keep a home here, I won't keep bank accounts here, I'm closing everything I own, selling car, everything. Whether I come back or not will depend on where the future of the country goes. So it took me a couple weeks to come to the realization that, because I had thought I'd take some more things and maybe keep a few things.
Yes, you asked me about shipping containers, I remember that.
Yes, and now I've realized that less is more. And that I've really come to the realization that things that I thought I might want to take just doesn't make sense to take. So selling every piece of furniture, things that I've artwork, pictures, some wonderful huge pictures. I don't have the wall space in my cozy home.
Right.
Wonderful huge pieces of artwork and pictures, and so coming to that realization, was challenging and yet is very liberating at the same time, because there's a certain amount of freedom when you detach from all the stuff that you think is important. So now I'm gonna open myself up to the new pieces of furniture I have, maybe find some other new pieces of furniture down the road, or so that's a big challenge. And for those who are leaving everything behind, once you make peace with that, it gets simpler.
Yeah, and that's huge. Now, the only area, because we did talk a little bit before, that I had a problem with getting rid of everything was, I think you mentioned you're getting rid of scores of Sinatra albums. I think that's sacrilege. That's sacrilege.
Well, I thought about taking. I have about 1,000 to 1,500 albums and about 5,000 CDs, and I thought about taking a lot of them, but. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm blessing them to find a new home.
There we go. Okay. I'm sure they'll find welcome homes. Now, Mike, you can give him a tip on what was the number one cultural shock you had 15 years ago when you first moved to Nicaragua?
It was 2002, so it was about, 18 years ago,
18 years ago. What was the number one, I can tell you what mine was. My first and biggest cultural shock when I moved to Honduras, I had no idea that coffee grows on trees.
It was like grew in a can.
I thought it came in a can. That's how I always. What was your number one cultural shock? Just so you'll be prepared for this one.
Well, Todd, you talked about driving down here, right, and wanting to be on time. We lived in Nicaragua 14 years. 14 years. And Carol and I, for 14 years, were the first people to arrive to every party for 14 years. We would sit in the house and we would think, all right, well, if we go 30 minutes late, okay, we'd still be way first. Right, we go, I guess 45 minutes. We'd still be way first. We would wait an hour and it would kill us, because now we're an hour late. We would go an hour after the same time. Yeah. And we would still be first. We could never get to the point of not being first because it was so uncomfortable. Yeah. That was really, I don't know if it's culture shock or not. Right. Crazy.
Well, the thought,
crazy.
I like to think that we have the ability to slip time eventually. In other words, not be ruled by the clock, which in this country we are. Get up and go to work at 8 o'clock, get home at 5 o'clock, eat lunch at 12, your lunch break at work, whatever it is, your favorite TV show's on, this, that.
Yeah.
Even your podcast is on at 12 o'clock, right?
That's
I don't want to miss that, right?
12 o'clock on my basis.
So the idea of maybe not even putting clocks in my house for a while, to just, I think the simplicity of the life is going to be most appealing. As Jeff talks a lot about meditating, and I've dabbled in it. I'm looking forward to the simplicity of eating local, the simplicity. So it's going to be a culture shock, but I'm already trying to at least prepare myself with the idea that I don't have to be anywhere on time.
Right.
And that if I want to go 2 hours late, then maybe I'll still be first.
You won't be, but if you're like me, you'd be very uncomfortable showing up 2 hours late. By the way, one of the things we learned, this is absolutely true with weddings and somewhat true with parties. They do the reverse, right? In the U.S., if we come to a party, Carter invites us over for a party, we're going to sit down, we're going to maybe have a drink and eat a couple things, then we're going to have dinner. And then we're going to sit and maybe have some dessert. And then we're going to talk till 10:30, 11, and then we're going to go home, right?
Right.
So we would have parties. We would tell people, we tell our Nicaraguan friends, you can come anytime you want. This is, we learned it. It took us a year to kind of get our heads. Come anytime you want. Food is hitting the table at 8 o'clock, right? We just tell them, food's hitting the table at 8 o'clock. We'd have Nicaraguans walk in at 9, or good friends of ours. I can't say their names. Anyway, really good friends of ours. They'd come walking in at 9:30 and be shocked that we had already eaten. I'm sorry, what part of food's hitting the table at 8 o'clock did you miss, right? Anyway, but they got it finally. But here's the thing, when you go to a Nicaraguan's house for dinner, right? You come in, you eat appetizers. Dinner is served 11:30, 12. Dessert is immediately served. A lot of people wrap it up in a napkin and take it and go home. As soon as you eat dessert, it's time to go home because you eat dessert at midnight. Right. So of course you go home at midnight, right? So it's so the hack, the thing, Carter, the thing you got to do, and weddings are worse. Weddings, they don't serve till after midnight. Eat dinner before you go to a dinner party. That's what.
Yes, no, that makes sense.
You know what I learned.
And we're programmed. I mean, I'm on my own schedule this time, and it's definitely an American schedule.
6:30, 7, 8, right? Yeah, if you're not eating until 10:30, 11, 11:30, like you get.
No, I'd have to eat something before I go to.
Oh, yeah.
So
I remember every when I lived in Honduras, I lived way out in the country and about a half an hour from the city of La Ceiba, and I would take the chicken bus in to La Ceiba every day, and I had to adjust to the fact that there was no time when it arrived.
It could, yeah.
You know, I would say, I'm going to get the 10 o'clock bus to La Ceiba. There is no 10 o'clock bus to La Ceiba. There's the bus that gets there when it gets there,
right,
which you then take to. So that's something you have to look forward to. And the chicken buses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to not, as I said, to slip time, to release that, to try to just go with the flow. I think, sadly, in this country, we've become so programmed that from an early age, you have to be at school at a certain time, you have to do this. You know, we get caught up in the system, and rightly so, people become successful. You have to follow a system.
We do. We follow a very tight schedule.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But in this case, moving to this environment, the idea of not necessarily having a schedule is quite appealing to me.
Yeah. Because what has happened for a few folks is they find a rhythm. Rather than a schedule, you find a rhythm. And that is a meaningful difference to schedule.
Right.
Right? Yeah, I know. It's interesting to see people who have developed a rhythm rather than a schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well put.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I know a lot of the viewers are wondering about is how will he be treated? How will Todd be treated by the Nicaraguan people themselves? Because, you always hear, like, if you go to France, which I don't know why anybody would ever go to France to begin with, but if you do, that they're very nasty and rude, right? How do the locals, the Nicaraguans, feel about somebody who does not look like a Nicaraguan and is not a Nicaraguan moving in there? What can Todd expect in terms of how to be treated?
I'll speak from our experiences, as two, gringos with a little daughter, three of us moving to Nicaragua. We were welcomed into the country, heartfelt welcome to Nicaragua. But I also think that a lot of how people treat you is how you treat them. You smile at people, they smile back. You frown at people, they frown back, right? So so much of it's what we bring to the party, right? So if we're bringing love and positive energy to the party, so to speak, we can expect to get that back from most people. And Todd, just getting to know you a little bit more today, you're going to love Nicaragua. The Nicaraguans are going to love you. So,
If you give out, as you said, love, the more you give away, the more kindness you give away, say hi to people. I mean, that's the sad thing. That's what's going on in this country, especially in this last year, is that they don't want people saying hi to one another and talking, conversing ideas that maybe aren't what the preconceived or whatever the government wants you to think. So this idea, if you say to your neighbor, hey, maybe this isn't really what they say it is, they don't want that. So getting away from all of that stuff and driving to Managua or Leon or wherever it is, and then meeting people along the way and just saying hi. I mean, my guess is I'm going to make Nicaraguan friends everywhere and hopefully lifelong friends, because this will be pretty much probably the rest of my life down there. I mean, unless something drastically changes that. So I'm excited. As you said,
we're excited for you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And so I think living in Honduras the way I did, I can tell you, I never had a bad moment with a local, with a Honduran. It was always very welcome. Matter of fact, I had such good moments that I married one. Little time. So maybe you'll have the same. And so with that, on that very happy note, we'll bring this third episode of the Iliad and Odyssey of Todd Greenwald to a close. First, I was going to say good luck, but actually congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I think you're going to absolutely love it. And
Carter,
fortunately,
always
you
a
got this
pleasure.
guy there who's already a friend.
And
So,
Todd,
Thank
welcome to the neighborhood. Welcome
Thank
to the family.
Yes, thank you very much.
and folks, thank you for joining us and make your move. Now, thanks for joining.
See you next Friday.
For more information on the Offshore Club or to contact Mike Cobb, visit www.offshore.club today. www.offshore.club. That's www.offshore.club. See you next time at the Offshore Club.